Okay, so we're all started with our video. So good evening, everyone. We're very happy that you're here joining us for our monthly Feed for Life meeting. And this evening, we have an exciting program planned for you. And we're going to get started. I trust that you had a good day and that you're ready to learn some more information on how to take care of your feet or the feet of your family. And but I had a good day. It was kind of it went really quickly, I guess because of the meeting, but it went fast, and I'm very happy that I am here. Thank you for joining us here at Feed for Life. You know, this is our monthly meeting that's held the second Thursday of every month. Generally, we usually talk about diabetes and how we can take care of the diabetic foot. But today we have a little twist, I guess. You know, August often signals the end of almost getting close to the end of the summer and time to get ready for school. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this evening, and I'm sure some questions about diabetes will also come up. So remember to mute your mics and make sure that you put your questions or any comments that you have in the chat, because we will definitely answer them at the end of our meeting. Again, our YouTube channel is up and running, and as well as the link for our videos are also on our website, which is www.familyfootcenter.com. So all the videos that we have done are uploaded to the YouTube channel, which is Feet for Life, just like the logo is FEET, the number 4, Life, LIFE 242. And once you go to that site, then you're able to watch all the videos. I don't know, I see we have some health professionals here as well. So all the videos from our Wound to Zoom meetings we had last month as well have also been uploaded to that site. So persons can also go there and watch the videos. So right now we're going to get started with our program tonight. And you know, we usually start with a devotion and a prayer. And so we're going to begin with that. And we'll have Elder Audley Mitchell to give us our short devotion and our prayer. So let us welcome him as he does our devotion. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I trust you had a good day. I certainly did. Any day you finish above ground is a fantastic day as far as I'm concerned. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this opportunity that we have to have spent the day, and for this opportunity that we have to be together to learn some things. We pray that your Spirit will guide us through this devotion and through the entire program. In Jesus' name, amen. The book of Mark, the Gospel according to St. Mark.
Same turn of the volume.
I'm told I'm a little low. Okay. Is that any better? Anybody give me a thumbs up? Okay. All right. In the book of Mark, from the easy to read version, the Bible says, chapter 10, which is 10, verses 13 through 16. It reads this way. People brought their small children to Jesus so that he could lay his hands on them to bless them. But the followers told the people to stop bringing their children to him. Now, Jesus saw what happened, and he did not like his followers telling the children not to come. So he said to them, let the little children come to me. Don't stop them, because God's kingdom belongs to people who are like these little children. The truth is, Jesus goes on, you must accept God's kingdom like a little child accepts things, or you will never enter it. Then Jesus held the children in his arms. He laid his hands on them and blessed them. Children. Well, this is the summer. August. The summer holidays are coming down. Most people have, or a lot of people have been on their personal vacations or their family vacations. And the children are counting down to going back to school because August is rapidly going. The summer holidays always seemed, when I was in school, a little bit too short. You start off thinking you have this great long period, you blink your eyes, and it's all over and it's gone. What did you do this summer? Did you go on vacation? Did you relax? Did you work hard? Did you get some projects done? Well, yeah, vacations are shorter than you think. And sometimes we want a little bit more. But we are people, God made us social creatures, exploring creatures, inquisitive creatures, always asking questions. And as the summer comes back down, or comes to an end, and the children go back to school, that's one of the reasons they do so well in school when they're young, when they're prepared, because they're inquisitive. They have the mind of a child that Jesus saw in the children inquiring about the kingdom of God. And he asks us all to have that same inquisitiveness, that same curiousness, that same questioning way to find out what is truth. That's why we send children to school, to learn, to develop their minds. And Jesus is saying we need to come to him in the same way, not just to develop our minds academically or vocationally or professionally, but spiritually and eternally. So I encourage you, be like those little children, whether it's in the summer for the holiday time to have some play and socialization with your friends, or during the heart of the school year when there's so much to learn, so much new stuff, and so much to apply yourself to when you decide to go the way of your career. Whatever it is, put your mind to it like a little child, wide open, like a sponge, and ready to absorb. But even more than that, ready to apply. And that's the same way with God's kingdom. Absorb what he has to say through his word, pray that his Holy Spirit will give you guidance, and then ask him to help you to apply it to be like Christ in your daily life. That's our devotion for this evening, and I hope we learn a lot. Summer is over, plenty to do in summer, after summer, and all time. Keep your mind open like a child to learn. God bless.
Thank you, Elder Mitchell. Thank you for that devotional. And I think all of us definitely learned something and can recognize or can appreciate it, that we would have an open mind and that we will learn like children and be eager to learn. If you see young children, generally you see them, they're pretty eager. They want to learn about everything or try to do something. And so thank you for that reminder, and help us to encouragement that we would also be like little children. So this evening, as we've mentioned already, that this is definitely August and it's quickly becoming the end of the summer, but we want to definitely cover, our general meetings generally cover diabetes and the feet. And we must recognize that we have a significant number of children who are diabetic as well, who will be returning to school and will definitely have some concerns about their feet. So we'll cover a little bit about that as well. But this evening, we have a program that's talking about children and their feet and what parents should do to get them ready, and grandparents and everyone who's concerned or who have children in their lives would learn something tonight to be able to make that process even better. I know even if it isn't from you purchasing for getting your children ready for school, you at some point had to get ready for school and make sure that you had everything. Most times you have a long list that you have to check off. And so we're very, very, very familiar with that. So our topic tonight is feet ready for back to school. You will learn about children's feet and what parents need to do to prepare those children, their children, for back to school. But before we begin, we're going to actually show our Take Control Minute, which is a short video that talks about children's feet and what we can do about it. So I'm going to just share my screen so that you can see the video. And then we will begin. Slideshow. Hold on, I need to get a sound. Okay, that's on. It's good. Slideshow. Slide.
It's that time of year again. It's time to get the kids ready to go back to school. Of course, among all the clothing and supplies that you need to buy, shoe shopping is high on that list. My name is Dr. Andrew Schneider, and I'm a podiatrist in Houston, Texas. You might butt heads with your child when it comes to a good shoe versus a good-looking shoe. In today's video, I'm going to discuss the important things to look for in shoes for school and what concessions you can make when it comes to style. Before I do, let others know about these videos. Please like, comment, hit the subscribe button, and share on social media. This will help others find this information. I also wrote a book all about kids' foot health. I'm happy to send it to you for free at www.kidsfootbook.com. If your kids ever give you pushback about the shoes that you want them to wear, tell them they should be happy that you're not a podiatrist. I have 3 kids who never had shoes that light up, shoes with wheels, or flip-flops. What abuse. When it comes to finding the right shoe for school, I'm a big believer in function over fashion. Let's start with expectations. In most cases, the shoes you purchase are not going to last for the entire year. On one hand, they don't make them like they used to. But aside from durability, your child is growing. A child's foot can grow as much as 2 sizes over the course of 6 months. Make sure you monitor the growth of their feet and buy new shoes over the course of the year as it's necessary. If the shoes become too tight, that can cause problems. They can cause blisters, corns, calluses, and ingrown toenails. These can all be painful, and an ingrown toenail can become infected. Keep your eye on your child's growth and make sure that they didn't outgrow the shoes. One thing we always think about with shoes is support. It's not an absolute, however. For instance, most young children aged 6 and under typically don't need a lot of support. Unless they have a particular mechanical issue, I would recommend a shoe with fairly flexible soles. Over 6 years old, you want the shoe to have less flexibility and more support. A good test is to twist a shoe into the arch. The less it twists, the more intrinsic support the shoe has. You don't want it very stiff, and you don't want it very flexible. You want it somewhere in between. If your child has a very flat foot, a more supportive shoe would be helpful. We also may work with special insoles to add support and make sure the foot is functioning properly. When you're trying on shoes, they should fit well. The heel should fit snug and shouldn't piston up and down. Movement like that can cause blistering. It's important to have a well-fitting shoe. I hear a lot of parents who buy shoes a bit bigger so their child will grow into them. Don't do this. Putting your child into a shoe that's too big can simply cause problems. Their foot will move independently inside the shoe. This makes the foot work harder and can cause painful conditions. In order to determine if the shoe is a good fit for your child, there are some simple tests you can do. First, while standing, check how much room there is between the big toe and the end of the shoe. For younger children, you want about half the width of your index finger, and for older children, there should be the full width of your index finger. Then you watch your child walk. Make sure the heel isn't slipping and the shoe is not creasing near the toes on the top of the shoe. Finally, if your child is tripping over his feet, it's a sign that the shoes are too big. Again, don't leave room for growth. Buy a well-fitting shoe for your child's current foot size. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Please take a moment to like, comment, and share on social media. Be sure to hit subscribe so you won't miss another video. I wrote a book all about kids' foot health, and I'm happy to send it to you for free. Visit www.kidsfootbook.com to order your copy. If you're having trouble fitting your child for new shoes, or if he or she is experiencing foot pain of any sort, come into the office for an evaluation. Remember, no child should have foot pain. That link is also in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that video as much as I did, and that you learned some stuff that we're going to talk a little bit more about tonight, but we want to make sure that we wanted to introduce it to you. So right now, we're going to get started with our presentation. We're going to start from the beginning. I realized last month when we had this meeting that I usually introduce our speaker, but I neglected to do that last time because I was the speaker and I did not remember to introduce myself. So tonight, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself for those persons who don't know me or maybe have not been attending our meetings, that so you may not know a lot about me. But I'm Dr. Monique Mitchell, and I will actually be a speaker tonight. So we're going to be talking, a lot of persons on vacation and a lot of persons are out, but we felt it was important to have this meeting tonight so that we can answer any questions or give some guidance and assistance with persons who may be getting their children back to ready for school. And so we already have some questions that we're going to be answering tonight as well. So I am Dr. Monique Mitchell. I am a podiatrist by profession, but I have actually been in health for the past 36 years. I know, I don't look as old as that, but I am. So 36 years I've been in health. I actually started out as a registered nurse. I was in the second class at the now University of the Bahamas, but the College of the Bahamas, the second nursing class there. And I got an associate degree in nursing. I went on to do my bachelor's and then also on to do my master's in public health and health education and health promotion. So hence, I love teaching persons about health and how to live healthy and how we can have healthier persons and healthier communities, which is one of my goals. And so while working as a health educator, one of the things I learned was actually about podiatry. I never knew about podiatry before that. And I just fell in love with it. I searched out my mentor, found out about it, and I jumped on, I guess, with both hands. And I went back to school at a ripe old age and completed a Doctor of Podiatric Medicine at Barry University. I then completed residency at the Mount Sinai Medical Center of Miami Beach. And then after that, I returned home. And can you believe it's been 16 years already? I cannot believe that. But I've been home 16 years. I've been involved in a lot of education, patient education, as well as health professionals education. And I've been in private practice for the past 16 years. A significant part of that, I worked with Dr. Debbie Rain, who was the first podiatrist in the Bahamas. And then after her, I've actually been now the CEO and medical director here at Family Foot Center for about a year and a half. And so, but we're continuing with our education and making sure that we're assisting people to be able to live well and to do all that they can to preserve their feet for life. So now today, this evening, our presentation is not specifically on diabetes, but we will definitely be covering diabetes. I also practice at Bahamas Surgical Associate Center and also in Freeport at the Lucayan Medical Center as well. I did go to Abaco and Exuma for a short time, so hopefully I'm looking forward to doing that again since before COVID, so hopefully we'll return to that. I've been happily married to Elder Audley Mitchell. You saw him earlier for the past 24 years. Can't believe it. And we have 4 cats. Can you believe it? So we're cat people. And so we're going to get started with our presentation. And our topic this evening is feet ready for back to school. Can you believe it? It feels like school just closed like a few weeks ago. And now we're getting ready for back to school. In the next 2 weeks, we'll have some of the early schools opening. And I think next week, schools in America open, but soon we'll be there as well. So our presentation, we're going to be talking about back to school. So we've already had our welcome. We've already had our devotional by Elder Mitchell. And now we're going to get started
It's that
with
time of
our presentation. Okay, so our topic this evening that we talked about is back to school. And we have a short objectives here, our agenda we want to cover. And I just want to encourage you, we're going to be a little interactive tonight. We have some questions in the presentation, so you can raise your hands or just let us know, and then we will do it. We have prizes for persons who answer, the first person. So we'll be able to do that. So we're going to talk about children's feet. How are they different from adults' feet? Common foot conditions, what parents need to do to prepare for back to school, school shoe shopping, because that's a big part of it. And then when do children need to see a podiatrist? So we know, all of us know that when our children are born, they usually have very fat and floppy feet. Okay, they're usually flat and they're usually bow-legged, because you can see in the picture here on this side, you can actually see that. And then as the child grows, continues to grow, then we'll see some changes occurring in the feet, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So generally, all children up to age 3, in fact, are all flat-footed. Once they get to be over 3 now, they would generally develop an arch, or genetically, if the family is flat-footed, then they may continue to have flat feet. But before that, all children have flat feet. So about around age 3, they begin to do that. Also, as well, the knees start to straighten up as well. Once they develop the arch, and they actually begin to straighten out the leg as well. So by the time they are 4 to 6 years old, the legs are pretty much straighter. They no longer bow leg or knock knee as before. So we can see that as the child grows, things are occurring. They're beginning to change, not only in their feet, but of course, all over their bodies. But tonight we're talking about the feet. So a lot of things are going on. So the feet are growing, they're changing. So you can see this little schematic here from the baby feet up to the toddler, then the child, the teenager, and the adult. So we can see, in fact, in 1 year, the child's feet is almost half the size of the adult foot, or the length of it is almost half the size. So the feet are constantly growing and changing, as we can see from the picture. The feet do not form properly or completely until puberty. In fact, some of the bones, when you take an x-ray, I should have put an x-ray in here. When you take an x-ray of a child's feet, you will see that some of the bones are not yet completed. They're not filled in yet. They're still soft. And so they're going to harden up later as the child grows older. Babies typically grow an average of 5 shoe sizes in the from birth to 12 months, and then 2 sizes from 12 months to 24 months, and then an additional 2 sizes from 12 months to 3 years. And then generally after that, they will change size every 6 months or a year, based on how quickly they grow. So we have our first question here, and we're gonna ask, we need someone to look and see who clock in first. So Elder Mitchell, can you look in the chat and see who's gonna either open their mic or answer the question first? So what is the average age when a child begins to walk? Can someone answer that question for us, please? The first person who answers will get a prize. You can open your mic.
Is it 7 months?
7 months is a little early, but there's some who start there. But the average is, can someone else try? The average time, the average age for the child to walk.
12
Is it
months.
12 months?
Awesome. So yes. Can you give us your name? The first person who said 12 months, or type it in the chat.
Camille Stewart.
Okay, Camille, awesome job. Yeah, so the average actually begins at 10 months, but the most often is 12 months. So it can be anywhere from 10 to 18 months for the child to walk. There are some who start early, like the first person said 7 months, and then there's some who are delayed, who are actually closer to the 18 months. But the most often is 10 to 12 months. So yeah, so I covered most of this. So before walking, a baby, of course, must master crawling and then, of course, pulling themselves up. And we see this all the time. They go to the chair or the table or whatever is there, and they pull themselves up, pull that head up, that heavy head up. And then once they are able to do those two things, then now they're getting ready to walk. So balancing is important, coordination, and then shifting the weight from one leg to the next, because you know when we walk, one leg is, you always only have contact with the ground with one leg, and so they must master those skills before they're able to walk. So our second topic this evening is looking at some of the conditions or some of the things that affect children's feet. What is happening to their feet, and what you should be concerned about, what you should not be concerned about. So we're going to look at some of those things. So heel pain is one of the most common things that happen, painful conditions that happen in our children, and it's called also called Sever's disease. So this is when they have pain in the back of the heel. This is not usually on the bottom like we have in adults, but you have heel pain. So it's mostly in the back of the heel where the Achilles is. That's the long tendon in the back of the leg. That's where Sever's disease or heel pain is usually more common in children. Most adults will have pain on the bottom of the foot or the bottom of the heel, but children tend to have in the back. And of course, things like sports, running, jumping, tennis, basketball, softball when they're stooping, those things tend to increase the chances of having that pain in the back of the leg or in having the Sever's disease. And really, with this condition, most children will, it'll resolve over time, but a lot of times it's quite painful. So parents will bring the children in to be seen so that we can assist with that. Some of the things that persons can do is having the child watch the amount of activity that the child is doing, making sure that they're stretching if they're in sports, making sure that they're stretching so that the feet is ready for the activities. And then if they're having a challenge with it, then bring them in to be seen so that we can deal with it. So ingrown toenail is also another common condition that our children may have. And of course, this is directly related to the way the nails are cut. And most times parents are cutting the nails because, you know, if your child is young, you should take on that responsibility rather than letting them do it. Anytime under, I would say 13, 14, that kind of age, you should, if not cut their toenails for them, at the very least supervise while they're doing it, because they can actually lead to ingrown toenails. And like the mentioned in the video earlier, tight shoes can also contribute to persons getting an ingrown toenail. So fungal nails and fungal infections could be on the skin or the nails are also common conditions that we see. Children sometimes like to walk barefoot, and so they can pick up a fungus in the skin or in the nail. You can also get a bacterial infection, and that can actually lead to smelly feet or athlete's feet as well. And then plantar warts are also common, as we see in children, especially if they're involved in activities where they tend to be barefoot, karate or swimming or other things like that, where they're walking in a public area barefoot. That will tend to encourage that as well. So children, yes, children can actually have bunions as well. And this is a bump on the inner side of the foot, you know, at the big toe joint. So children can actually have that too. And usually it's inherited. So if you have a family history of bunions, sometimes you can see it in the children as well. They have what is called a juvenile bunion. And then, so that will also tend to have a challenge with it. And most often it's seen in children with flat feet as well. So of course, sprains and other injuries persons can get. Children, especially if they're really active or they're playing a lot of sports or just being very active, they can trip or twist the ankle or something like that. And the most important thing is to rest, have rest, ice, compression, elevation, put it up and give it a couple of days or a week or so. And if it's not better, then it may be best to bring them in to have that examined, to have it checked out. And then flat feet, like we talked about earlier, up to age 3, all children will have flat feet. And then even up to 6, a significant number may still have flat feet or just be developing the arch. And so we need to watch that as well. Usually after that, they will have an arch if it's not a family, if the family does not have flat foot. So in toeing, that's where children walk with the toes pointing inward. And this actually is not, it looks uncomfortable for us to see it, but a lot of times it's not uncomfortable for them. And sometimes most of them will outgrow it. If we support, we recommend that they would get insoles or that you provide at least some structured footwear for them, like sneakers or tennis, rather than letting them just go barefoot for that as well. Now, toe walking is another common condition that we see, and it's okay before age 3. So once the child is less than 3, it's okay if they go into a toe walk, and most times they feel like they can go faster when they toe walk. So they will probably do that and then, you know, come down flat-footed once they reach their destination or something like that. But definitely after the age around 4, 5, the child should not be toe walking anymore. They should definitely be walking flat-footed. If they are, then that needs to be checked out because that's not recommended, is not ideal at that time. And then, you know, we always say, I know if I ask anybody in here today talking about growing pains, we would all remember a story about that. So children's feet, ankles, and legs are growing, as we were talking in earlier, all the time because they're in constant state of growth, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. So growing pains are natural and can often occur in the muscle following a greater than usual activity. So the child is very, very active, or they've been, you know, excited and doing a lot. Sometimes they may get muscle aches or what we call growing pains. So it would usually resolve in a day or 2. But if not, then you may need to bring them in so that we can check it out. All right, so we looked at the conditions. We looked at how the child's feet is growing. Then we looked at what are some conditions or foot conditions that we see in children. And now we're going to look at why would you come? If what would make you want to bring that child to see me or another podiatrist? And so the first one is if that child is complaining about foot pain or stiffness. Foot pain is not normal at all, not in children or in adults. So definitely if they're having pain, then we need to find out why they're having pain and what we need to do about it to take that pain away. The next thing is if they are limping or they're favoring one side more than the other. So if you notice the child walking and you see that they're hopping maybe on one side or limping on one side, then that's a cause for concern. And then you need to get them some attention. They have been drawn from playing sports. So if your little Tommy or your grandson or your son used to play and run up and down with the other children or the cousins or whoever it is, and then all of a sudden you see that they don't want to play anymore, or they want to sit, or they just want to play their video games or something like that. They don't want to run up and down. That is not normal. You need to check it out. You can even start by just asking them why they don't want to play or if they're having pain, because oftentimes children will not complain. They may not complain that they're having pain, or they may say it a couple of times. And, you know, as parents, we may not listen right away. So then they just stop, okay? So they seem more clumsy than usual. They may be falling or tripping. That is a cause for concerning. that's cause for concern, maybe more in-toeing or out-toeing that is causing them to get tripped up. And that is a cause for concern as well. Okay, they're not keeping up with their friends, so they're playing, but they're the one, the one in the back all the time, or they're not doing all of the activity, or they can only play ball for what, half of the time that the other children are playing. Then these are all signs that maybe you need to get their feet checked out. And then they suddenly change the way that they're walking. So for example, toe walking, okay, sometimes children, they may start walking flat foot, and then all of a sudden they switch to walking toe walking. Then that's an indication that something is going on. Or they may, like, again, we talked about, favor one side as opposed to the other side. Okay, so this is a handout that we have here. So it covers basically the same signs that we talked about earlier. The only one here is that they may be hiding their feet. So when you either assist them with bathing or they're bathing themselves, they tend to hide their feet, put on socks or something like that, so that you cannot see the feet. They may have an injury or a cut or something like that on their feet, and they don't want you to see it. Okay, so I'm going to encourage everyone, if you have questions or if you have any comments, if this is resonating with you, definitely put your questions in the chat. Okay, so what do we need to do now? We've looked at how children's feet develop. We've looked at what are some of the conditions that children have that may occur in their feet. Then also look at what are the things that should alert us to bring that child to a podiatrist or to have their feet checked out. So now we're going to talk about what is it that you need to do, or you need to help your child do, to get ready for back to school. So we have another question. So Ms. Stewart got that first one. So now our second question is, what is the main cause of foot problems in children? You can just open your mic, and the first person, you can answer the question. What is the main cause of foot problems in children? What do you think that is? And a hint is the same problem in adults as well. So go ahead. Anybody have an answer for us?
Ill-fitting shoes.
Awesome. Who is that?
Camille.
Ms. Stewart again? I think you heard this before.
No.
You are absolutely correct. Ill-fitting shoes or poorly fitting shoes, shoes that do not fit properly, is the #1 cause of problems in our children. Okay, so that's why we saw in the video when the gentleman, the doctor said that, shoes are so important. They're one of the most expensive things that we have to get for back to school, and one of the most important, because they're gonna be spending long hours in these shoes, and we definitely want to get them good shoes, the best shoes that we can afford, to make sure that they're there. So here are some qualities or characteristics of the shoes that you should get for your child. Before I do #1, I want to say, do not buy the shoes too early. A lot of times, persons will start buying shoes from June, like just after school closed. They may have a sale or something like that, and then they go and buy the shoes. But the summer is 3 months, so the foot may grow in that time. And so you don't want to purchase the shoes too early. I would say within a month, so that's late July to August, should be the time when you purchase the shoes. June is, and even early July is a little bit too early, I feel. Okay, because the child may grow, especially their feet may grow in size, and so you will have to purchase another shoe as well. So #1, the shoe should be flexible. Okay, so the shoe should be flexible enough. I hope you can see these shoes. So the shoes are flexible enough so that when the child's foot bends their feet, the shoe can actually bend enough. You don't want it to be so you could fold up the shoe, okay, like a flip-flop. You don't want it to be so that you could roll it up. okay? But you want it to be flexible enough so that when the child bends their feet or their toes, that the shoe would actually go with it, okay? So you don't want a hard sole shoe, can be maybe painful after wearing them for all day, especially if they're running around in the shoe. Number two is the shoe should be padded and have an absorbent inside. So if you look inside this shoe, okay, you may be able to see, but it's nice and padded on the inside. You can see that it has a nice black cushioning on the inside. Even the walls or the sides of the shoe is actually nice and cushioned, okay? And a lot of room in the toe box because children, we know our children go to school from, most of them probably already ready for school from 7 or 7:30, and then they're going to be in those school shoes until probably after 5. And so that's a lot of hours that they're going to be in these shoes. So we need to make sure that their shoes are comfortable. They're padded and they are nice cushioned inside. It's good. Lots of room in the toe box. Now, I'm sure most of you may remember when we were younger, when we had a shoe, our parents would always touch the front of the shoe with our thumb, and you had to have a thumb width of shoe in the front of the toes, so that we know that the shoe is fitting properly, that is not too tight. The toes are not right there abutting inside of the shoe. So you want to have a lot of room in the front of the shoe where the toes are going to be. Again, the shoe should be fairly light, not too heavy, okay? And I wonder sometimes when I see these children, and I won't call no name brand, but I see them in some of these shoes and they look like those shoes are very, very heavy, you know? So that can actually, especially small children, it can tire out the feet and the muscles in the feet if the shoe is too heavy. And then number 5 is that the shoe should have a leather upper. So the shoe will be breathable and stretchable, okay? So it's better if it's leather, okay? The canvas will be okay as well, but that can get wet and, water can get inside it. So that's not recommended. So leather upper is the best thing to do because it's breathable, reduces sweating and odors, so that persons would be able to be comfortable in the shoe. And then the shoes should have some kind of closure. That's either laces, Velcro, buckles, something like that, okay? So that it helps to keep the shoe on. When you wear a shoe without laces, Velcro, buckles, or something, or even, for example, this one here these are not laces, but these are like straps that are across the foot, the shoe. And so it can actually help to hold the foot to secure the foot in the shoe. But when you don't have that, the child will use a lot more muscles to keep that shoe on. It's like a flip-flop or a slipper. When you wear a flip-flop or a slipper that doesn't have a back strap, you tend to hold that shoe on with your toes or with your feet. And so you're going to be doing that. So we don't want our children to be 8 hours with having to do that. And so that's the reason why it's better to have something like laces, Velcro, or buckles, or something like that to hold the shoe on or to secure the shoes to the feet. So sometimes we also recommend that we have insoles in the shoes. Those are insoles are inserts that we put in the shoe that would help the shoe to fit properly and also to give the support in the parts to help with balancing the weight bearing in the shoes. So sometimes you have less pressure in the arch, of course, because the arch is elevated, and then you have more on the heel and the forefoot. And so it helps to balance that weight bearing. So it's good to wear insoles or orthotics. If the child is absolutely flat foot, when they're over the age of 3, 4, then we definitely recommend some kind of orthotics for that child so that they can have the support and they don't have the tiring, because the feet will tend to get tired a lot if they don't. It can support the foot, the orthotics. It can actually help with correcting deformities if the child is younger. And then it actually helps to relieve pressure and pain in the feet. However, it cannot fix a bad shoe. Okay, so if you have baby doll flat shoes that you bought for your children, or they don't have Velcro or straps or something like that, it's not going to be able to fix that problem, because if the shoe is too flat, then the insole actually will not be able to fit in the shoe, and then it will actually lead to more challenges than that. So you can actually treat the heel pain, other foot pain in the forefoot, flat foot, and other conditions that first children may have when you wear the insoles. Now, we know when you go to buy shoes, you don't only buy the shoe, you also buy sneakers, and then of course you want to get socks as well. Making sure that the tennis or the sneakers are good structured sneakers. You're not getting sweet waters, like we used to call them, sweet water, the very, very flat tennis. We want to get tennis that are structured. They're sport tennis. So what you would go walking in, what you would go CrossFit, what you would do running, and those are any of those type of sneakers can be used for physical activity, because we know children have physical activities at least maybe once a week. And then of course you want them to be more active. So you want to get a good quality sneaker, the right size. Usually the sneaker would be maybe a little half size bigger than the shoe as well. And then you want to get the right type of sneakers. Some of our children play tennis, or they play soccer, or softball, or basketball. So if you're going to play soccer, then you should get cleats, or the type of, if there's special tennis for that activity. Some of the young ladies may be dancers, so they have to get ballet shoes, or other type of shoes for the activity. So the right type of shoes for the right activity. And then of course, fit. You have to, it's difficult to purchase a shoe for anybody if they're not there to fit it. I know sometimes we have to do it, and sometimes we even buy online, but it's best to have that shoe fitted with the child there, so that they can put on the shoe, they can stand up, they can walk in the shoe, and really, really feel how comfortable the shoe is. So the fit is very important. But those socks there to remind myself that if you have, socks are very important as well. Sometimes you have children who sweat a lot on their feet, or on their hands as well. And so you can actually purchase special socks that wick away the moisture from the feet, and then it'll help to keep the feet dry so they don't get so wet. Or you can even have them take another pair and change it, like at break time or lunchtime or something like that as well. And then there are many other products on the market for sweaty feet as well. So we talked about development of the child's feet, what happens during those first years. Number two, we talked about what are some of the conditions that we see in children's feet. And then we talked about what conditions we should seek the podiatrist for. And then number four, we talked about shoes, how important it is to make sure that we have the right shoes for the right activity. Now, we're going to talk about generally what can we do to make sure that our children's feet are healthy. First of all, we'll talk a little bit about babies and toddlers, and then we'll go on to the older children. Having healthy feet during childhood can help prevent medical problems way back in the future, and specifically looking at back and leg problems that persons may develop later in life. And we talked about the flat feet and the importance of supporting those feet, because a lot of times persons may develop bunions and hammer toes and pain in the foot, heel pain, these things later in life because of the flat feet that was not supported. As children grow, their feet require different types of care as they get older. As a matter of fact, we have children who are young enough, if we get them in orthotics, it can actually help to change the shape of the feet so that they can adjust and be better. So although babies do not walk yet, it is still important to take care of their feet. And we know, even including cutting the toenails. So it's important for parents to do that, and do not tear it. I've seen where parents, just because the nail is soft, they tend to tear it with their fingernail. So it's better that you clip the toenails rather than tear it, because you can actually tear it and cause them to get an ingrown toenail. I've actually had a baby with an ingrown toenail. So allow the baby to stretch and kick and feel free and be comfortable as much as they can in the crib or wherever it is that they want to do. Avoid putting tight shoes on the children, shoes or socks on the children, especially if they're babies, 6 months and less, especially if they're not walking. So if they're not walking, then you don't really need to put no shoes on them. I know that's a common practice we do, but soft shoes, if you want to put something on their feet, socks or soft moccasins until they really start walking. They don't really need any heavy shoes at that time. They're still developing those muscles and getting it ready for walking. So we want to support that. So as we move on to a little older now, always have your child's feet measured for length and width before buying shoes. Some of us as adults, we wear the same size shoe we've been wearing from high school. And you know, your foot can actually change in size. Pregnancy, obesity, weight gain, all of these things actually affect, weight loss even affects your foot size. And so we need to still measure the feet, especially our children. Once a year, definitely should have them measured. If you feel their feet is growing faster, then you may have to have it measured more than once per year. Always fit the shoe with the child. Let them stand, walk in the shoe. As we walk, why is that important? Because when you try on a shoe or when you stand, the foot tends to splay or get a little wider. And so you will see exactly how that shoe is fitting. Okay? Check the size of their socks and shoes regularly. I remember we heard from the video that sometimes the child can actually change their shoe size maybe once or twice in a year. And so you have to continue to check to see what size it is. Don't just buy them. They wore size 7 last time, so you want to get size 7 again. So you don't want to do that. You want to always check the size of the shoe. We covered this before, I think. Check the shoe size every 1 to 3 months after up to age 3, and then every 4 months up to age 5, every 6 months after 5 years old and over. So definitely we are seeing the feet is changing as the child grows. If it's possible, purchase 2 pairs of shoes so that the child can have a shoe to change. For example, you can alternate the shoes, especially if the shoe gets wet. You know, this is our rainy season coming up during when school opens up, and oftentimes you may get a lot of rain, the shoe may get wet, and so you want to make sure that the shoe dries completely before they wear it again. So if you can, get 2 pairs of shoes so that the child would be able to alternate, okay? So be especially careful and observe your child's feet after wearing new shoes. We saw in that video the blister in the back of the shoe, the child's foot, when you pull down the sock. And then you look here also in this picture, you can see little bruises on the side of the foot as well. So you have to check the shoe, check the child's feet, even after you purchase the shoe, to make sure that the shoe is not too small or they're just not getting any rubbing spots or anything like that. Inspect the feet regularly for inflamed nails, red pressure areas on the feet, the top of the toes, around the ankle, the back of the heel. Those are the areas that you definitely want to check, okay? So to ensure that our children's feet are healthy, an important part of that is making sure that they have good hygiene. And I'm sure some of you have boys out there, and so you know, a lot of times they're not eager to do all the bathing and the washing and all of that. So I remember one time I had a young man and he had an ingrown toenail. And so we did the procedure and everything for him. And then once it was done, you know, I told him, I was like, now you're not gonna be able to bathe to get this foot wet. The foot now, I didn't mean all of him. You're not gonna be able to get it wet. And he was like, yes, no bathing. So it was really, really funny. Now, you know, his mother was looking at him like, but it was really funny. So I always remember that story. So we know that sometimes well, I know I'll say boys because I think our girls are a little more eager to go in the tub. But washing the feet regularly with soap and water, making sure that you're drying them properly, especially in between the toes, is important. You can apply moisturizer on the feet because sometimes children can have dry skin as well. Okay, so children's feet are naturally sweaty, but they're not smelly. Oftentimes, when there's a bacteria or gets in there or an infection, then you may smell an odor. But generally, even if their feet are sweaty, you don't smell, you don't have an odor. Okay, so the toenails should be inspected regularly and they should be trimmed straight across. Do not curve into the corners because you can actually cause them to get an ingrown toenail. So cut them straight across or even just use an emery board or a file just to make sure that they're in good condition, and check them regularly because everything on the children are growing fast. So the nails are also growing fast. So you want to make sure that. So I wanted to just mention here that all that we've covered in terms of the children's feet, those are also occurring in our children who have diabetes. And so we have quite a bit of children in our school system who have type 1 diabetes and even type 2 diabetes in our school system. So their parents also have to be careful with their feet, not only looking at their shoes, their sneakers, and the foot care, but they also have to manage their medication and manage their diabetes. So we have to definitely pay attention to that if we have children or we know of children who are diabetic and who are definitely in the school system. And shoe size is critical for this person. In our office, we are actually offering persons, if they want to have their children's feet measured, you can just come by our offices and we'll be happy to measure them for you to make sure that you're purchasing the correct shoes. Some of the shoe stores also have a measuring device called a Branagh device that will measure the child's shoe size. So you don't have to just guess or go by what you bought last year. You can actually have their feet measured. And so we're encouraging you to do that. You can do it at one of the shoe stores, or you can actually come by our offices and we'll be happy to do that for you. So we talked about the general development of the child's feet. We talked about what are some conditions they have. We also looked at what may alert you to come and see a podiatrist. And then we also looked at our shoes, purchasing shoes. We also looked at how to make sure that the feet are healthy. Our last topic this evening is looking at when to see the podiatrist. And so we looked a lot about this, about the 6 steps that what persons need to do that are very similar. So if your child have any of the following complaints, then this is time for you to bring them in to see the podiatrist. If the foot, leg, or heel pain, definitely. Swelling or limping, if they have flat foot, and especially if they have tiredness or pain with the flat foot, you should bring them in. Other deformities, they may have bunions or hammertoe that you see here on this picture on the bottom, skin rashes or calluses, hard skin. They may have bumps or lumps on their feet, ingrown toenails, or if they're tripping and stumbling, you can definitely bring them in as well. Or if they don't want to play with their friends, or they prefer to be carried, this is for the younger ones. If they prefer to be carried when they were walking previously, then that's a cause for concern. So when you come to the podiatrist, what will happen? There will be a comprehensive foot exam, a physical exam. There'll be a walking exam, which we call a gait exam or gait analysis. That's where we see the child walking, and we watch and see how the body, straight from head to toe, how they're balanced and how they're walking. And then we measure the feet as well. And then we look and see if there's any additional testing that may be needed. They may need an x-ray, they may need additional testing like that. Treatment can vary based on what the complaint is. Oftentimes we may require orthotics, which are custom made devices that go in the shoes, but it may also be exercise, it may be shoes. So there are many things that we can do to assist the child. So we will manage the condition, or we will refer to somebody else if we need to. So that is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. I am going to leave this slide up, and then we're going to see. So if you need to get any offices are located on Independence Highway. If you know where British American Insurance Company is, then you're right in the ballpark. We're basically on the southern side of Independence Highway. So once you come from East Street and you're coming toward Blue Hill Road, the office is on your left-hand side. You really can't miss it. Our phone numbers are here listed for you. Basically, it's 605 feet or 341 feet, or 802 feet. All of them, 3668 is the same number as well. You can also send us an email, or you can also go to our website if you need to get more information about it. So I'm going to leave this slide up. And if you have any questions, I'm going to check the chat and see if we have some questions in the chat. Okay. All right, so we do have a few questions in the chat, and I have a couple here as well. So we're going to start with Mrs. Claridge, and she's saying, when adults have heel pain, what does that mean? So often we talked about children having heel pain is most often in the posterior or the back of the heel. In adults, most often the heel pain is on the bottom of the heel. So the most common complaint for persons to come to a podiatrist is actually heel pain. And most often it's going to be plantar fasciitis or heel spur. It can also be a nerve as well, a problem with the nerve. And then, of course, it could also be Achilles tendonitis if it's in the back, or a heel spur in the back as well. So those are basically like the 4 most common conditions that would present with heel pain for adults. In children, it's called Sever's disease, and that's most often in the posterior or the back of the heel. So that's what we're talking about. So the second question is, how often should you change your children's shoes? So we talked about this a little bit in our presentation. What you should do is monitor your children, monitor their feet, look at their feet regularly, and see how the shoes that they're currently wearing, how it's fitting. Sometimes it's a little too tight. We definitely don't want it to be too big. So even though you want to purchase a shoe that gives a little bit of room, you don't want it to be too big to be flopping off the child's feet, because that also is very dangerous, can cause accidents as well. So it's based on how the shoe is, for how often you're going to change it. And we talked about a little bit in there. It says for the child that's less than 3, I think you check them every 3 months. If they're 4, you check them every 4 months. And if they're 5, you check them every 6 months, I think. And so even in that space of time, they can actually change their shoe size because of how quickly they're growing. So within that, that'll give you a guidance on how to do it. Oh, awesome, Dr. Horsley. Good to see you. It says, when you bring your child in to see Dr. Mitchell, bring a home video of the child walking in a comfortable environment to get a more normal video, natural video, to show the doctor of your concern. This is very true, Dr. Horsley, because when you ask persons, adults too, because we do gait analysis on adults as well, but when you ask them to walk in the hallway, and then you observe, you can't go on the first several up and down. You have to wait and see, like, they relax and then they really walk the way they regularly walk. So that's an excellent idea. So if you're a parent or a grandparent and you have a concern about how the child is walking or something you see, it is good to just take out your cell phone and take a quick video, and then bring that video with you so that we can actually see it in a more natural environment, so that the child, because a lot of times we all like to put our best show forward. So if you're being asked to walk, then you may actually walk in a different way than you usually walk. So we want to make sure that we see what is really, really, really going on. So thank you, Dr. Horsey. That's an excellent, excellent suggestion.
All right.
Awesome. So we have another question here, and it says, if the child has pain when playing a particular sport, what should they do? Do they, work through the pain? Like they say, no pain, no gain? Or should you stop the child from playing that sport? My recommendation would be that foot pain is not normal. So if the child is having pain while they're playing the sport, there are a number of things that can be causing that. They may be getting an injury, or they may have been injured. So I recommend stopping the sport and having their feet checked out before you begin playing the sport again. So it's best to stop. We can check the shoe, we can check the foot. We may have to do a number of things to make sure that it's safe for the child to play that sport. And then once we will have treated, once we treat the condition or whatever the problem is, then we'll get the child back into the sport gradually. You don't, even if adults even, you don't just have an injury and then you start right back where you began. You will have to build back up to that. So you don't just jump right back in. So we would definitely do that. So I recommend holding or pausing the activity for now, and then have the child's feet examined and then go back to the activity afterwards. So don't let them push through the pain or no pain, no gain, that type of attitude. Let the child, let their feet be examined, and then we can go back to the activity. So I'm going to open it up now. If there's anybody else in the chat or if you have any questions or comments, if you would like to, you can just go ahead, raise your hand, and we'll be happy to listen. Dr. Horsley, if you have any other comments as well, you can also chime in for us, please.
Oh, you're right. Have the children checked for diabetes, type 2 diabetes. You mentioned type 1.
Yes.
Have them checked and screened because children are becoming type 2 diabetics at an earlier age. And that leads, of course, to amputations, as we know. So, and it's currently a pandemic of these amputations in the Caribbean. And that needs to be addressed. And we might as well start with the children. They get the right shoe, they get education about their feet, and then their toes won't go.
I was just about to say, you mentioned the book.
So, for people to sleep with it. But yeah,
yes.
for sure, people need to improve the health of our children, stop feeding them the crap that they have on television, and let them, matter of fact, even the commercials, when it's dog food, it's the best thing for their age. Compare a dog food commercial to a human food commercial, and you'll see we must be insane eating that crap that they're selling us. I think the dog food is healthier. According to them, it's healthier. Give me a nice shiny coat and everything else.
Wow. So I agree with you, Dr. Horsley, and I think this is an excellent time because we do have a challenge with obesity in our children, which we know is also a risk factor for diabetes. And we know also in before children go back to school, most often they have a physical examination. They have to see the doctor to have their vaccines, their eyes checked, their hearing checked. And these are all these things that are checked. And so it would be a good idea to have them check their weight check and check them for diabetes, maybe an A1C, the HbA1c exam, blood test to check to see what their A1C is. And then also because we have such a high prevalence of diabetes in our country as well, it is good to definitely check to make sure that our children don't have diabetes or at risk for it. And I also wanted to mention that persons with type 2 diabetes, whether they're a child or an adult, they should have their feet examined at the time of diagnosis. So if you're a person with type 2 diabetes, whenever you're diagnosed with diabetes, definitely that is the time to have your feet examined. The child with type 1 diabetes in 5 years. So within 5 years of diagnosis, they should have their feet examined. And I just would like to say, I actually began my practice in Freeport because of a group of young persons who had diabetes. At the time, we had the Diabetes Research Institute contracted me to go to Freeport and see these children. And I can tell you, Dr. Horsley, that I think last month or the month before, I actually saw one of those young people that I saw 12 years ago. 12 years ago. And I was so pleased to see her and to realize that her feet are in excellent condition and she's doing well, because not only do we examine the feet, but we also do education to make sure that they understand how important it is for them to take care of their feet. So that is very, very important, especially for our diabetics or our persons who are there.
Oh yes, that's true, and it is rewarding as the years go by and we see people who know nothing about feet, and to be in a profession where we know pretty much everything about feet, or we have access to those who do know with using our iPhone within seconds, I'll say. And no one knows about feet in the whole world, and it's good that you are helping in the Bahamas like you're doing. With the early education, stop that type 2 diabetic amputation thing, and keeping this, I was going to say podcast, but the Zoomcast going. It's got to be very beneficial, because I know the people who are listening are telling their friends, and I like to chime in also just to keep up on some stuff that you younger folks know.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Horsley. And we're going to invite anybody else who's on the call if you have a question. I see Ms. Johnson here saying very informative. I appreciate this information very much. Thank you so much. And we have a number of commendations in the chat. And we just want to say thank you also for attending and participating in our meeting tonight. We know that was a lot of information that we covered. But if you need to get in touch with us, on the screen, you can see our phone numbers and our email as well. We'll be happy to assist in any way. So we just want to give you we have about 4 minutes left, 6 minutes left. So if you have any more questions or if you have any more comments, you can definitely put them in the chat. Ms. Gibson, thank you too for coming. Everyone, thank you, very informative. So we appreciate you being here, and we definitely go ahead and share the information. If you need to get any of the handouts, the little book that the doctor talked about, we can give you the link for that, as well as the handout that we have in the chat for diabetics, as well as the one for children feet. You can definitely do that. And Dr. Horsley has also put inside the chat, My Toe Can't Go. And that is an excellent children's book about diabetes and how to take care of your feet. We're going to be launching that here in November, and we're hoping that you're going to be able to participate with us and get that in the hands of the children in our schools, so that we can make an impact and help to prevent amputations from going on.
Real talk. I like that.
Yes.
Good to educate these children, because that was your lifetime goal and your mission. So, and you're not even near halftime. So keep moving on, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Knowles. Thank you as well. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much. I need to give you a call. I can call you after the meeting. Thank you so much as well.
Call one anytime.
Yeah. So we're going to get ready to close. So in case there are anybody else have any questions, we're going to just get Elder Mitchell ready to give us our closing prayer, and so that we can get ready to close. So we're going to just say thank you to everyone. One thing we did not say tonight was to put where you were listening to us from in the chat. I'm sorry, I forgot where you're listening to us from in the chat. So if you are listening, I know Dr. Horsley, you're still in, where are you?
I'm in the Motor City.
All right, Detroit.
Yeah.
So Dr. Horsley is in Detroit. So if you're listening to us from elsewhere or else around the Bahamas or in the Caribbean or in the United States, just drop a line in the chat and let us know where you're listening to us from. And then we'll be able to recognize you. But we're very, very pleased that you are here. And we're actually planning our next meeting, which is on the 12th of September. And so every month we've been doing this for the entire year so far on the second Thursday of the month at, oh my goodness, Davis Creek in Central Andros. I think that's our first time. Nice. We've had Andros before. We haven't had Central Andros. So excellent, excellent. We usually have some right here in Nassau, yes. We usually have some Bimini and we have some Long Island. And so we usually have a good representation, Exuma. So we're very, very pleased that you are here. And we will be sending out the notice again in early September so that you can definitely participate in our next meeting. This is like the coming to the end of the year. So this is like hi, we have diabetes, we have peripheral arterial disease, we have a whole slew of activities that we do at the end of the year. So we're very pleased and we invite you to come back. And if you want, you can just send us a WhatsApp at 802-3668 and let us know if you want to put you on our list so that when we send out the reminders that you will also get your personal invitation. So thank you so much for coming. We're going to ask Elder Mitchell now to come give us our closing prayer. And we want to make sure that you are able to get back to your nighttime activity. So go ahead, Elder Mitchell.
Let us pray. Father, thank you for this opportunity that you have given us to learn so much about our feet, so much about the feet of the people we love, most children. Help us to not just know this, but to apply it to our lives and to educate those around us that we can have healthier feet, better feet, feet that can last a lifetime. So we can have more comfortable and effective lives, and those feet can carry us into places of learning to fill our curiosity and then to help better someone else's existence as well as our own. Please continue to be with us at this night. May we never be from under the umbrella of your protection. In the name of Jesus, we pray, and for his sake. Amen.